The Beautiful Game Network. I am Mike. With me is Josh, Justin, and Kev. It was a battle of the Titans this past weekend as Sacramento came to town, and the Hounds are probably sorry to not come away with all 3 points, and we're going to talk all about it. But first, guys, it feels like I haven't talked to you in forever, and I guess that's what happens when we just, tend to get together every single week. It's been what? Well, you guys did a show while I was at camp, right?
We did one show and then we skipped a week.
We skipped a week because I got back and was exhausted. And Josh, you were still like wringing all of your clothes out because you guys got drenched at the game, and Kev was at some other concert. And so, yeah. And Justin was on another continent. So, yeah, it's the first time back. Justin, tell us a little bit about your travels here, man, because I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty amazing. So I got to go on a trip with my church to Kenya for a couple of days, and yeah, pretty surreal. Just like driving down these dirt roads in a sport utility vehicle, and you like look, oh, there's a camel. Oh, there's some goats. There's and just seeing like rural desert Africa. But just pretty amazing to see. Kind of how they're making life work in that side of the world, and makes me super grateful for all the things that we have over here, and just the pluses that we have in the US, but maybe the responsibility that we have to serve the rest of the world in some ways as well. So that was pretty amazing, and then just lots of good family time since then, and even over July 4th weekend. So good time since then, but been a fun summer so far.
That's awesome.
Very
very,
cool.
very cool. Josh, how you been?
Good. I'm going to go to Ohio this coming weekend. So,
Nice.
It's pretty much the same
It's pretty
story
much Kenya.
as what he just, yeah.
The desert of Ohio.
Yeah, exactly. The plains, the Ohio plains. But yeah, doing good. It has been a busy summer with all these Hounds games, and it's like it's a lot of work going to like setting up the tailgates and all that kind of stuff, and making sure the Steel Army has like, I think we bought smoke now twice within like the last month, like just trying to like keep up with it all. It's like, oh man, there's a lot of games.
Is it easier? I got a feeling this weekend you're gonna need a lot of smoke, but we'll get to that.
He's hitting for the last 2 games.
Logistically, I imagine that it's easier that home games are spread out for you. It might be nicer, right, if it's all like compact in summer or whatever, but
yeah, I always joke that away games are kind of like my day off. It feels like it's just like, oh, cool, I can just watch the game, sit on the couch, or go to a watch party, drink a beer. But it's like on game day, I'm like, all right, we gotta pack up the car, we gotta make sure we get there by 4, set up everything, and then like I usually don't want to go in until like the very last moment because like people just randomly come over while they're like coming to the game to buy merch. So I'm like, if I pack up at 6, like or 6:30, I'm gonna miss sales. So
yeah. I've got a crew that I'm probably going to send your way. I'm bringing about 20 people to the game this weekend. Basically, my wife's entire set of siblings and their families, and they're going to want the full-on experience.
Sick.
So we're all showing up separately, but I'm all going to point them in the direction of the Steel Army tailgate just to pop in and see it, and then probably get in line to fight for one of those Highmark Stadium replicas, which
this game is going to be, I mean, we can talk about it once it gets closer to like the end of the show for the preview, but yeah, these replicas that are going on.
Listen, I'm literally throwing it down now. I don't know what time I'm going to get there because we're going on a Pitt college tour before the game with my oldest son, and then we got to go back to my parents and pick up the younger 2. I am going to bring extra Mongols hats, which of course I'm not wearing. I just grabbed a hat. This is from camp. I'm going to bring extra Mongols hats, and I will trade somebody like one of the brand new Mongols hats for their replica if I'm unable to get one. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm putting it out there.
I don't think it's going to work. You can try.
I'm putting it out there. If somebody gets like multiples and they want to trade me, we will do a straight up swap. Just find me because I will have the hats and we'll make it happen. Kev, how was the concert?
It was great. Yeah, I went to go see the band's called The Smile, which is like a spin-off of like Radiohead. So it's Tom York and Johnny Greenwood and another guy. Is usually how it's advertised. It was great. I mean, it was a little bit of a struggle because it was an indoor auditorium in Asheville, North Carolina. And they let us know like 5 days before the show. They're like, hey, our HVAC system is busted and it's not going to be fixed in time. So, it's just this hot, muggy, humid, sweaty room that I was like, wouldn't be caught dead here in like prime COVID times, right? It was just like this cesspool of like breath everywhere. But it was worth it. By the end of the show, we were sweating and we didn't even like get up and move or whatever. But no, it was awesome. It was a great show. Good to see him live, like a big kind of bucket list thing kind of checked off for me. So yeah, it was a good show.
That's awesome.
You wouldn't have been caught dead there, but you would have died there.
There you go.
I saw it was like 17 people were hospitalized from the Ed Sheeran concert in Pittsburgh this past weekend because it was so hot and people weren't staying hydrated. It was like people going into cardiac arrest and like it was a whole thing.
Wow.
So
I mean, they did say that they're like, we'll have extra medical staff on site and giving out free water. They had one of those big Gatorade jugs. They're like, you can fill up your own cup if you want.
Go buy a beer, chug it, and then come back here with a cup, and then we'll help you out.
Yeah.
Listen, I got to give, shout out to the Steel Army in Highmark Stadium because I didn't hear of any medical issues with people in, dehydration at the game, which was going on at the exact same time and in more direct sunlight. So kudos to you guys. I saw there was a lot of messages on social media reminding people stay hydrated, bring water, do what you can. So there might be more of the same this week. We shall see. But good. One thing I wanted to touch on real quick because we tried something and Josh, I don't know if this is going to be contentious because I don't know where you stand on this. I have a feeling you stand in one place, but you might not. Threads came out, which is like, suddenly everyone's like, we're done with Twitter. We're on to Threads. I totally get the sentiment of wanting to drop Twitter, but we tried, I tried, air quotes, live tweeting the most recent game on Threads. And it's just, Josh, you were like, don't even try. So I literally just did halftime thoughts and full game thoughts. And then we posted the full 90 over there as well. But to me, like, it looks like Twitter. But the fact that they don't post things in chronological order and the fact that I can't just view the people that I'm following, that I have to see like posts from Oprah and the Kardashians, I'm just like, you're screwing up the two most important pieces of this for me. Like on Twitter, I always just read the threads or the tweets, of like a group of journalists that I follow for news or like the Steel Army or different people. I don't care about everybody else. I don't get into those other contentious debates. But Josh, you were on there threading it up all weekend. What are your thoughts on the thing?
You can tell it was released before it was ready, and it was done on purpose because they saw what was going on with Twitter with their rate limiting people and like having all these issues with paying for servers with Google. So they just jumped. They're like, we have to release it now. Like it's not all the way baked yet, but we're just releasing now to try to get on that, downswing for Twitter. And it worked. There are already at 100,000 users. So it's working. Two, you're right. The the not being able to just view your followers or who you're following sucks. Like that's the worst part about it to me. Chronological view as well, obviously. But I do think like both those things are coming. So like it's just going to be a little bit of a wait, And other than that, though, if you start using it, you see less and less of those like Oprah and like other like types of tweets or threads, and it becomes more and more geared towards your taste. So the more you interact with it, the better the algorithm gets. But it's definitely annoying to like not just be able to view who you want to view.
Yeah. So in terms of, if people are looking on social media, we've talked about this for a while now. Like, what are we going to do? A lot of our stuff is still over on YouTube. This video is on YouTube. We post the predictions over on YouTube. That seems to be like the central place that isn't really going to be changing anytime soon. Although I did notice that whenever people comment, now it's not using names, it's using handles, which makes me think that they're starting to move towards another direction, which makes it a little bit more complicated for me when I'm trying to tally up the score predictions, because trying to guess people's handles to their actual names is kind of fun. But yeah, for the time being, We'll see how much we still post on Twitter. There's still a lot of news that the team puts out on Twitter, although I did see that the team is on Threads today. So we'll see if they start posting stuff there as well. But just stay tuned. You can find us on YouTube. We're still on Twitter. We're over on Threads at Mongols Pod, not just at Mongols. Somebody with an actual Mongolian logo is at Mongols. So thanks.
Jumped on sooner.
It goes back to Instagram. So like we just didn't have the Instagram first. Yeah. So
I never thought about it. We didn't have an Instagram. We don't have an Instagram.
We have like 5 pictures. Like Justin and I were like, we should do this. And then like Justin, you posted a few stuff from a few other teams, and then it just we didn't. So So that's the latest on that. Guys, before we get into the game, real quick, news from this week. Hounds signed Juan Carlos Obregon Jr., or JC, as Lily calls him. So I'm just going to go with JC. He is a forward. He previously played for Rio Grande Valley and Hartford. He's been spending the spring playing in Honduras. And, in our internal Slack, the immediate question was just sort of, what do we think this means for Tola and Lopez and Kiza and all of that? Justin, do you have any thoughts on, why the Hounds would go out and sign another forward at this point in the season?
It seems like the the theme of the year maybe for our forwards has been injuries. And so it might just be going out and get somebody who's healthy who can kind of step in. We got Dikwa back for this past game, but I think it's just can everybody stay healthy? And when you're in the middle of a busy summer, as the Hounds are, like, you also just need guys to play minutes. And so I'm not sure it means anything other than that. I'm not sure that Lily was sitting there going, I don't like the way the forwards are performing, so I need to go out and find another one. But I think when you start hitting July, August, September, games are getting longer, guys are getting injured, it's hot, so I think there is probably some validity to just saying, like, we need somebody to play some minutes to help us out. So I think that's probably what it was more than anything. Hounds have played a lot of games, including the Open Cup and everything. So that's kind of what I feel like it was, more than like, oh, Lily wasn't pleased with the way the forwards were performing or something.
Yeah. I tend to think too, there was some discussion during the stream of the most recent game where Lily has come out and said that he still doesn't know who his starting 11 are at this point in the season, which I think is legit. I think that there is a lot of competition in positions, and so he's sort of taking things game by game. But it does feel like, at least offensively, we've sort of settled into this lone striker setup, which doesn't seem to really suit Kiza very well. Doesn't really seem to suit Lopez really well. So you are kind of left with like Dikwa or Show and Me. And then, like you said, Justin, if Tola goes down, then now we're posed. Like, you're trying to plug in somebody that really isn't going to be able to perform there. So,
didn't we start the year with 2 forwards and a 10 behind them or something?
Yeah.
It was often Dikwa Kiza with Lopez behind them or something.
Yeah. And now we've been
what we did
more
last year too, right?
Yeah.
That was mostly our build last year.
Yeah.
Past few games has been more of a 5-2-2-1, at least on paper. So yeah, guys, any other thoughts on JC coming in at this point?
What when Kiza came in last year, he came in later in the season, right? This feels too early for the Kiza thing. So yeah, no, I think everything that Justin said makes sense to me, as far as what you would expect. I think we've looked particularly, in my opinion, we've looked particularly exposed and forward when Dikwa has been out. I think Show and Me has shown his inexperience. He still looks a little raw, streaky, but reinforcements there. I think out of any position on the field, I think reinforcements there make sense.
Yeah.
We have a lot of forwards, but at the same time, we're not using them always as forwards. So they're, advertised as forwards in name only. And also just, I feel like that with Kiza, he was injured, and when this first got announced, I thought this meant Dikwa was not coming back as soon as we thought he was. Mm-hmm. So I am a little bit confused by that, because I was seeing that happen and then going to the game and being like, oh, he's on the bench. Oh, he came in. Okay. I I don't know, but yeah, I think it's just to shore up a lacking offense that we have right now as far as our forward position.
There were some shots of Dequa early in the game sitting on the bench, and he was not happy sitting on the bench. You could tell it just like pains him to not be in the game at this point, which is great. I
Good.
mean,
Yeah.
that's great for Chico. Like, we want to see that. Guys, moving on to this game. So the Hounds did draw 0-0 with Sacramento. I don't know. There are a few things we could talk about, at least as it relates to it being a 0-0 draw. But Josh, you were there. Give me a takeaway. What were your thoughts from this one?
Sacramento is a good team. They're a really good team, and I don't feel like they played all that great against us. I feel like, well, maybe the way I look at that is I feel like we did a pretty good job of shutting them down. The first half was definitely a little bit dicey, but by the second half, it felt like that we were primed to actually get the win. It just none of the shots went in, and that sucks. Either they were defended pretty well, especially with Vitiello in goal, and it just sucks that we didn't get it. But at the same time, like, this is a great team that we were playing against, and we went up against them and had no issue really. But also, if you look at their away stats, I think they have like 5 draws out of 8 games. So like that's kind of like their MO as well, is to shut down any attack and just get out with a point. So.
I don't know Sacramento at all. I just saw what I think it was John on USL Tactics tweet out something where I picked up on it. He said a slightly weakened Sacramento. I don't know what, like.
I thought he meant us was slightly weakened, not them, because like they had Cicerone, they had like it felt like they. I don't think they really had that many injuries, so I thought he was meaning us was slightly weakened.
Fair enough too.
Yeah. I mean, to sort of reiterate, Josh, your point, it did feel like my feeling during the game was like this is the best that the West has to offer. Like it didn't feel like they really showed up as much. I thought Vitiello and Cicerone showed up, which is ironic because they played at Highmark before. Like they know what it's like. But I also feel like that's a bit of a testament to what Highmark has become. Like the past few teams that have played here have not wanted to play here. Like they just come in and to their credit, I think the first 15, 20 minutes, we got sucked into sort of playing Sacramento's game. It felt like it was very back and forth. We were all in each other's boxes. And then it seemed like Lily told the guys, like, calm down, like slow things down. And then we just took over control of the ball. We were much more judicious about distributing it around the back, just moving them from side to side. And we forced them to play our game, and they just sort of bunkered. I mean, I think in the second half, they literally had 2 touches inside our box. That was it. They basically stayed outside from there. So, Justin, what did you see and think about this one?
Yeah, it was interesting. I will admittedly, part of the reason I haven't even been on the show is because I haven't watched in a long time, and just being out of town on Saturdays and having different things going on. We went to the Union game a couple weeks ago on Saturday night, and so it's just like different things that I haven't been able to like actually catch the Hounds in a while. And so this was the first game in several weeks that I've actually sat down and watched the Hounds play. And I was actually struck at how good the Hounds looked. I think since I've watched them several weeks ago to now, I think they've improved a ton. What I will say was I still think they're I think Mertz and Dequa coming off the bench created a whole new dynamic to the team that the team didn't seem to have in the first half. And it seemed like they just didn't want to get in Sacramento's box. And you're not going to you have to we know this, you have to put a ton of shots on Vitiello to score on Vitiello. Like you're not going to score. It's not going to be, hey, I get one chance and I score. Like that's just not how Vitiello works. And so you have to get a lot of shots on him to score. And I just feel like in the first half, we just didn't get shots. It was like, okay, everyone was scared to shoot or scared to make that last pass into the box or something. And then in the second half, it was like everyone was like, okay, we got to do this. So it was like Mertz was making runs into the box and Dequa was making runs in the box. And then Ordonez made that run late into the game into the box and almost scored. And And it was just like it was just a whole new game at that point. So I was just really glad to see that. But that being said, I thought that just even the team that was on the field in the first half did look so good, pinging the ball around and passing the ball around, which felt different from the beginning of the season. It didn't feel like we were a cohesive team at the beginning of the season. And it feels like as we've gone on and having been away from the Hounds for a couple of weeks, it was like, oh, this team knows how to play together now, and it was like we were missing that last like piece in the box, or that kind of the cutthroat, or the the final dagger in the attack. But that could have been the injury too. But it also just like I was just impressed at how well we played, kind of the whole game. And then it was just like, oh man, if we just got one good shot or two good shots more in the second half, I think we would have scored. But it was a good game overall. I was actually really impressed.
Yeah, it was definitely entertaining. Josh, I wanted to ask you, what was the fan reception like for Vitiello? I know you guys were behind them in the first half. Were you giving them crap, or was it?
Oh yeah,
okay.
yeah, the whole time, just like traitor, giving them crap. I think someone threw out a golden glove. Like, remember when you didn't get the golden glove at the house? It's just like joking with them. But it was like,
Yeah,
terrible or anything like that. And
right.
Favorite thing is always when the keepers walk away at the end of the half, just like doing the left, right, like as they walk away, and like seeing if they'll react. He reacted, and it was just playing along with us, and yeah, it was good. And then I believe after the game, him and Russ, and I think Shane, we did too. I can't remember. Like waved at us after the game, that kind of stuff.
Nice. Yeah, that's always tough, especially with those guys who are recent that we have some relationship with, and that they're like good dudes. It's a lot easier to like really pound on somebody that you don't know personally. So I'm glad that you guys gave it to him, and I'm glad that he also knew that it was all like in good sport.
Yeah, and I think Russ, sister, I believe, had family there because he's originally from Michigan, and so like he had we didn't have any traveling away supporters, obviously, like come up to us during pregame, like doing tailgate. So I didn't realize it until after the game was over. Then I saw like a big group of like 15 or 20 people like waiting for Russ to come back out and like cheer him on a little bit after the game was over. And it was like, oh, that makes sense. It's probably all his family came in actually to watch him play. So that was cool.
Kev, what'd you think of this one?
I have more kind of like micro comments rather than any kind of big sweeping narrative around like the broad strokes of the game. I will say the broad strokes of the game, I will say, like if you're just looking at like the score on paper, if you've been away for like 3 months and you just looked at like the Hounds last 4 games, knowing Dikwa's been injured, the easy narrative is to say Hounds can't score again. Like it's 2 goals in the last 4 games. We've been getting goals from all over the field, but that's drying up. That's the easy narrative. But I mean, this game is not that. We created a lot of really good chances against a good team, and so it's unfair and false to just say, well, this team's struggling to score. It'll be interesting to see how all of that kind of switches over now that Deke was back. Mertz is getting more of a run in with the games, coming back from his kind of weird, I'll say, injury. Weird in the sense that it's like aggravation, like determined or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it was a good game. A little frustrating that it's another 0-0 at home. I always feel like to continue big kind of home support, you want to put on a little bit of a show at home, especially in the summer or whatever. But there was a show. I mean, there was a lot of chances, shots on net, and it was a good game. So yeah, I mean, and then just diving into a little bit of like one of the kind of like micro comments or whatever. I mean, Justin, you mentioned like looked like we were moving the ball pretty well. I think the majority of the season I've been lightly critical of Kenny Forbes.
I thought you were going to say Danny Griffin. I was
no.
going to say, okay, hold on. Yeah.
No, but I thought Kenny actually had a really good game in this game. I thought he created some really good chances. A lot of the times he was the pass before the pass. He moved the ball well, got into good positions. So yeah, I wanted to specifically kind of call him out where, in a big game that mattered, against Sacramento. I mean, all these games matter, but it when you try to measure yourself against like the quality of other high quality teams, it's important. And he stepped up, and I thought he had a really good game.
Funny enough, my wife was sitting with me right before the game started, and she looked at me and she said, Canardo. And I said, yeah. All this time, she did not know that his name was Canardo. She always hears me call him Kenny, so she just thought it was Kenny or Ken. And she was like, oh. And I was like, yeah, it's Canardo. Yeah.
That's funny.
Do you have any other micro thoughts, or is your mouth full of ravioli right now, Kev? Yeah, ravioli. The one player that I think I'd like to see that has some flashes, and I called it as sort of a halftime shout, that I thought DZ Harmon would get pulled. It felt like, and I talked about this, I think at one point with Langston earlier in the season, where it felt like at times they're going for like the moonshot. Like every time they get the ball, they want to make like the spectacular highlight play. And more
his overhead bicycle kick?
Right. Well, no, it wasn't.
What else did you want him to do there?
It was no. I don't fault him for that. No, but it just felt like there were a lot of times where we would have possession, and then he would get the ball, and he's like, well, rather than pass it back, I'm going to try to beat this player. And like, I get sometimes in that position, that's what you've got to do to progress the play forward. But it just feels like more often than not, he's going for like the Neymar superstar-y type move rather than sort of the simple keep possession kind of play. And it just felt like it was one time too many in this game that Lily was like, okay, you're out. We'll put in Rovey and just sort of keep possession.
Yeah, I do think the bicycle kick was a little bit like, it was cool to see him go for it, but at the same time, like, our defender's trying for a bicycle kick right now. Which also, by the way, he's listed as a defender. Like in this game, he played a defending role, but then he also is listed on the website for the Hounds as a midfielder.
I think our media
means he's
just
probably,
like, I don't know. Like, do we have to put positions on these people? Like, yeah.
I was gonna say, which means he's probably a forward. Like,
I was gonna say, I mean, I feel like kind of talking about all those guys who kind of roam the lines. I mean, I feel like they're all decent attackers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, maybe they just didn't feel that way early in the season, and maybe that was just because they didn't kind of know what was in front of them and what was behind them. But I feel like as the season progressed, looking at Rovey, Harmon, Dos Santos, Biazzi, everyone who kind of plays those wingback, whatever they are, roles, Blackstock, yeah, I feel like they're all decent attackers, and they can all get in their box on their day, and it's just good to see. I mean, it's just good to see. I think after having been away for a couple weeks, I felt like, what was I walking back into? I'm not sure. Do they really know how to play their positions? Do they feel like they are understanding Lily's system? And I feel like they are, more than they were 5 weeks ago. And so, it was fun. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that the bicycle kick was interesting, but to Kevin's point, I don't know what else he's supposed to do there. I mean, I think it bounced weird off his chest, and then it's behind him, and could he have laid it off to somebody? Maybe, but he's looking up at the ball, so it's like he's not seeing if there's anybody there. So goes for the overhead, and it wasn't a bad attempt, actually.
Yeah, like I said, but it just feels like, I don't know if there's been many times that he's made that play and it's like came off. So I have been impressed with Blackstock. I think especially as of late, he's really like claimed that position when, Justin, you just listed off like 3 or 4 other guys that you could easily say have also claimed that position. I know Dos Santos has been sort of been put in the back 3 a little bit more, but especially in the preseason, he was playing forward, and I was like, he's not really running the channels, right? Like, it's not really working. And so for Lily to be like, nope, you're going to play as a wing back, and he's locked it down. Kudos to him, man.
He did it with Dixon last year. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, I don't know. Is this kind of what Lilly was trying to do last year with Dixon. Like, I'm wondering if part of it is when you have the two, you have like the Etu and Kenny, sometimes when you drag them wide further up the pitch, that creates lanes for your wingbacks to cut in towards the goal. And so you have more opportunity. Like Biasi had a nice run late in the game where he sort of picked it up. And because he had players in front of him, he was able to cut inside because those players dragged other players with them. Maybe that's what he was hoping for with Dixon, and it just never panned out because people were like, nah, he's too good. We're not just going to let him run inside on us. I don't know. Maybe. Pure speculation.
It hurts to talk about Dixon.
It does hurt to talk about Dixon.
I think we should move on.
Guys, one thing that did cross my mind, and just we don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but there was a run that Ordonez made late in the game where he basically picked up the ball and like dribbled past a few guys and got a shot off. It got blocked. But that's not the first time he's done that, where he will pick up the ball and step up into the midfield or even, get into the 18. I started to think about, like, can you imagine, like, what if Ordonez played as a holding mid? Like almost like a Busquets kind of role where you have now this big body that's almost like a destroyer that sits in front of our back line.
John Stones.
He doesn't have sort of the I think one of his biggest strengths is sort of that last ditch defending ability, but he wouldn't have to do that. And that gives him more freedom to sort of distribute and make runs into the box.
I love it, Mike. I think it's one of the few good ideas you've had in this
All right.
No, genuinely. I was going to make a joke after you started the comment saying of, he made a run and got a shot away or whatever. The joke I was going to make, I was like, yeah, he's in a goal drought right now. Like he scored 3 and 3 and, he needs to score. So yeah, no, it's not a bad shout, especially when it feels like we're pretty well stocked with center backs, especially when you want to, play people like Dos Santos as one of the like outside center backs. It feels like we have enough players that fit that mold that can play those roles. And then you're looking at a Farrell or an Ordonez to play the central part of it. So yeah, I know. I think that'd be interesting.
The issue is that, we already have more midfielders than we know to do with. So I don't know what that does to, a Griffin, a Mertz, an Etu, Ibarra, like Kenny. It just, we're sort of spoiled in that department. We've talked about this before, but
I think it's situational. If you come up against a team where it calls for it, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, can you imagine like 2 double pivots of like Etu and Ordonez? That's just mouth-watering to me. And then you have Forbes kind of float around and be a playmaker, a wide playmaker or something. But
yeah. Listen, Liz just said in the chat, let him be a forward. We let Farrell be a forward earlier this season, and it didn't go terribly.
Scored 3 goals in 3. We're struggling to score right now, so
Yeah.
And I loved when he like chose to do that too, though. Like, and it's just a super smart play. I mean, it's like you're 10 minutes left in the game. You've got Sacramento pinned in their box. Like, okay, cool. I've got 5 yards in front of me and I can weave a little bit and get a shot off. So, super, super smart play on Ordonez's part to make that happen. So
yeah,
can't complain about that at all.
Agreed. Guys, anything else from this game that you want to talk about?
Your
micro things. Go ahead, Kev.
Yeah. On the flip side of, being, you could push the incorrect narrative, at least in this game, of like, we're struggling to score or whatever. It's 5 games where we've only let up 2 goals, and one of those, and that came in 1 game. So 4 shutouts in the last 5 games.
Yeah.
Zamudio is like Jamali Wait who? He's probably like, this is easy. Like, I don't understand what all the
that one save against Cicerone wasn't easy. Like 10 minutes in, that was a good save. But
yeah. So I think the Hounds deserve huge credit for that. I think the most important thing, if you want to be like a championship winning side, a side that really is there contending for things at the end of the season, you need to be good defensively. Yeah. And I don't think you could say that about us early in the season. And so I don't know if it's this more kind of, well, I don't want to say permanent switch, but this recent switch to like a 5-4-1 with like the lone striker, it does seem like we have been very good foundationally, like defensive, like not letting up a ton of chances. And when they are, they're not clean chances. And so, I mean, the squad, the defense, Lily, everyone deserves huge credit for the defensive record right now.
I was going to say, spoiler alert. We'll get to this when we talk about Detroit coming to town, but literally after 18 games, Detroit have faced twice as many shots as we have. So like our defense is locking it down and just not letting shots get to the keeper, which is great. So,
and not that I think that Zamudio is going to be the long term. I don't think he's going to be starting for us in September.
I was like, contractually, can he? I think he's like gone. And
it was like a 1 month deal.
Yeah. But I would imagine they'll extend, especially with Jamaica still being in the Gold Cup. But point. I mean, I think the other thing I was thinking about and made the comment to Laura Ellen is like, I can't, I'm not going to complain about Jamali Waite spending a month and a half with Andre Blake. Like, cool. One of the best keepers in CONCACAF, and you're getting to spend a month and a half with him. Like, I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Like,
agreed.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to talk about Zamudio real fast. Like, he's been doing fantastic, and I would be surprised if he sticks around after, like, part of me was like, oh man, he's so good. Maybe like Bob will try to like sign him or like something like that. Like, he deserves to be starting. And I don't think having Zamudio and Jamali Waite is really fair to either one of them. If that makes sense. I feel like either one of them should be a starter. So like they should go where they're going to be starting. Which is the whole reason why he's here to begin with, is because he needed playing time because he is so good, I feel. And then keeping on the keeper talk real fast, a little tangent. Did you guys see that Ryan Thompson, old Hounds goalkeeper, is the, at least for the Gold Cup, he was a goalkeeper coach for the men's national team during the Gold Cup. Yeah, like he was out on the field celebrating with them.
That's awesome.
Is that how you found out? You're like, wait, that face looks familiar.
Someone screenshotted a picture and like, you know, someone had tweeted or threads or something like that about it. And I was like, wait, what? And like, I didn't hear about this. I didn't know he was, I think it's just like a temporary gig for like maybe just a Gold Cup, because he's over at Houston Dynamo like 2 team as what he's mainly, his job is right now as a goal coach for them. But he was there for the men's national team. So that was pretty cool.
Sick.
I actually thought that was interesting. I had seen that news when like all the Gold Cup was coming out and they had announced some of the coaches and different things, and happened to see something about Ryan Thompson. So I looked at more information about him. I didn't realize that he was the head coach at OKC Energy when they folded. And so he was the head coach there, and then they folded. Now he's the goalkeeper coach at Houston Dynamo too. But then went to the Gold Cup with the US. Because I think he's friends with BJ Callahan. But
so cool though. Yeah,
really.
What a ride, right? You know, from head coach of OKC to keeper coach for Houston 2 to, you know, be in there with the U.S. men's national team in the Gold Cup. That's good for him.
Crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah. Kev, any other micro things? I don't want to, blow past any of your notes that you made. Are you good?
No, that's fine. No, we maybe my last point. It's a little less related to the game, but okay. So I think it would be somewhat obvious to say, maybe not, that okay. So now that Dikwa is coming back into fitness, the obvious replacement is he comes in for showing me like kind of no questions asked, like for like replacement. Mertz, I think, is the other kind of interesting thing, where I would say in other formations he makes more sense, but in like a midfield 4 where he's a central midfielder, Griffin's more obvious for me there, Ibarra is more obvious for me there, Atu is more obvious for me there. And that's how we line up. I mean, in this game, you can kind of view it as somewhat as like a flat midfield 4, although, Kenny and Atu both drifted wide, both of Forbes, Griffin, Ibarra, and Atu. Do you think Mertz comes in immediately? If Mertz is fit, does he play? I did notice, he comes on, he wears the captain's armband, and I mean, I don't think anyone's questioning the centrality of his role in the club and the team. But I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on Mertz getting back fit and how he fits in?
I feel like it's what we saw in this game. I think Ybarra is who he replaces. Unfortunately, like I think Mark Ybarra is doing great, but I don't really see another choice.
Yeah,
it's weird because I feel like, at least the way we lined up in this game, it felt like we had Griffin and Ibarra sitting a little bit deeper. And I think part of that was tactical because there were a few times that it's obviously tactical. There were a few times that Griffin picked up the ball deep and carried through the lines to like sort of disrupt what Sacramento was doing. And I think that was part of the plan. That's how Etu was getting so high out wide to the left. But historically, I would say that Griffin would be playing more of that Etu or Kenny position as sort of like an attacking mid. And we've seen times where
historically, as in this season, because when he came in this season, he was a revelation as an attacking midfielder.
Right. Yeah. So this season he's been more of an attacking mid. And Kev, we've had conversations about when Griffin came in, Griffin playing as almost like a second forward. Mm-hmm. And so now you have the situation where you have these two guys that are both really good at attacking. And right now we're playing sort of Etu and Kenny, at least in this game. We played them further up. I would expect that to be flipped. I would almost expect Etu and Kenny to be sort of the holding mids, maybe Kenny a little bit further forward. And then you have Griffin and Mertz in front of them. So I don't know if it's necessary. Josh, I don't disagree with you, but I don't think it's a like for like swap Mertz for Ibarra because I feel like they're sort of different positions. So I think it does introduce this weird, like, situationally, like, what are we trying to do in this game? And it may not be a straight plug for any of them other than maybe Kenny and Griffin, just because of the history with the club. And, it just seems like they're always the first names on the team sheet for Lily, but I could be wrong. I mean, Justin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things just to even take away from the conversation is I think the cool thing about where the Hounds are right now and in this midfield situation is you can go, there's a lot of strategic ways you can play our midfield. And so I think it's like a lot of it could be situationally depending on the team you're facing, how they set up to who you put on the field and where you put them on the field. I don't, and the other thing that I've noticed, and the other thing that I really felt like watching this game after, again, having not watched the Hounds for a couple of weeks, is I didn't feel like there was necessarily any big drop off in talent in maybe teeth or getting forward or trying to create something in the attack. I thought there was a little bit of a difference once Mertz came on the field, but I didn't feel like, oh man, like pulling Ibarra off the field and putting Mertz on. It's like, I don't know that the Hounds got that much better talent wise. Like, I don't know, all of a sudden, like, oh man, we have so much better players on the field. It was more just like, we've got a different type of player on the field. And so I don't know that I feel like Mertz like slots right back in and is like, okay, he's first name on the team sheet, going forward. I think it could be situational. And I think, in a situation like even this past game, not that Mertz was fully fit and could have gone 90, but even in this game, you're tied 0-0 with 30 minutes left in the game or 40 minutes left in the game. And it's like, oh no, let's throw Mertz on and see what happens, and, he started creating some stuff that hadn't been created before. So I think that's what's really cool is like all those guys that you're talking about. And then you include kind of the wing backs in that conversation. I don't, from one guy to the next, I don't feel like you're losing that much skill. You might be just getting a different type of player. And I think that that's the nice thing that Lily has to his advantage and probably a good thing since he's such a tinkerer of our lineups that he can go from one game to the next and be like, no, I'm going to start this guy this game and see what happens,
I think, Kev, to your point, I don't know if we've ever gotten this late in the season, 18 games in, and not known sort of like, okay, these are our top 11 and like there's going to be drop off. I think the only positions that you can really kind of nail down are probably keeper and forward. And literally there's competition at every other position to the point that center back, wing backs, midfielders, like
Ordonez, yeah, that's sure.
But I mean, there's even been some games where he hasn't played and we've been okay because you have some depth there. So I get your point, but this probably is the deepest team that we've seen in the Lily era, legitimately deep, not just like on paper deep.
Yeah, I agree.
Which we'll see how he manages that, because that could be a gift and a curse. Like he could, stay up, late at night just trying to figure out who are the right players to start, because that's a problem. It's not as clear cut as usual.
I mean, the good thing is usually if you keep rotating players in and out and changing system, I mean, I think part of it's due to injury, because such a core player like Dikwa goes out for an extended period of time. Weight drops out. Maybe that changes how he views structuring his defense. And Mertz, part of it's injuries, part of it is like formation wise, and these feed into each other, where it definitely feels like we're playing a different formation than we did at the beginning of the season. So all of that kind of contributes to the continual churn and inconsistency. But yeah, I mean, eventually, last season he definitely settles on a set 11, where in the stretch in the run in, heading to the playoffs, we see the same players, and so I'd be curious to see if that kind of happens again, because I mean, so many people have come in and made an impact. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
Well, guys, we spent 45 minutes talking about a 0-0 draw.
Good 0-0 draw.
I was going to say that could be an indicative of the game itself, or it just can be indicative that we like to talk. So we're just gonna move on, because we have two other games to talk about. But first, it's been a while since we've talked about Pick'em. The latest Pick'em results: Laura Ellen has overtaken Kevin with 19 points. She got a couple calls spot on. So the current leaderboard is Laura Ellen at the top with 19. Kev, me and you are tied with 17. And then the ones that actually matter, the ones that actually can win, you have Devin Pale with 15 points, Keaton Liebengood with 15 points, Michael Finn with 14 points, and then we've got a whole bunch of 13 and 12s. So everybody is sort of in the thick of the running here. As we mentioned, all season long, the top point earner who is not, part of the Mongols team will win 2 free season tickets to the supporter section in 2024. So it is well worth your time. And I'd still say at this point, it's still not too late to get involved if you haven't yet. Basically, just head over. We will tweet it out. Maybe we'll thread it out. If that's what it's called, I don't know. But it's definitely on YouTube. If you go subscribe to us on YouTube, you will see the post. It typically goes up the day before the game. You leave a comment with your score predictions. 3 points if you get the score dead on, 1 point if you get the result right, and no points otherwise. And so whoever gets the most points gets 2 free tickets. And I think we said, Kev, if we all beat you, then you need to come up here for a game. That was the deal, I think. And if you win, then we're all going to just come down and stay at your place for a game. So we're going to crash in your apartment.
Yeah. Second half of that's fine. First half,
I'm sure.
I need proof.
Looking quickly at the standings. So, we got 2 draws in a row. That drops us to second place in the East. Tampa have now overtaken us at the top with 34 points. Tampa, who just lost their head coach to the English second division. So he is on his way out. We will see
what first division.
What's that?
No. English first division.
Who? What's the guy's name?
It's Neil Collins is
Neil Collins,
the coach. I can't remember who it was, but I thought it was first division.
Yeah.
Or not first division.
I think it's second division, because I think it's Burnley.
Yeah, I think it's
Burnley. Yeah, sorry. That's why. Yeah.
So so we'll see what happens with Tampa as a result of that. Historically, Tampa's been pretty good at just sort of chopping and changing, and they just keep on plugging along. They have a pretty good system in place there. So they're currently at the top. We are at second. Nipping at our heels is the Battery with 31 points. Louisville are in fourth with 29 points. We got a big game where we can swing some points our way. And then rounding out the playoff positions are Memphis, Birmingham, Indy, and Tulsa, with Detroit sitting at 10th. They only have 16 points, which is exactly half of what we have so far this season, which bodes well for us this weekend. And Fraudford are sitting on 10 and have lost
they look bad.
Majority of their games. Yes, They have 12 losses and 2 wins with a negative 17 goal differential. So good times.
Quick. Neil Collins went to Barnsley in League One, which is the third division. Yeah.
Sorry, I was meaning League One. Not
yeah.
Like I was like, no, it's one. It's League One. But I was saying first division. I'm like, no, that's wrong. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Guys, next up, this is a 2-game week. So we got Louisville at Lynn Family Stadium on Wednesday, and then we have Detroit back home on Saturday. So we obviously just played Louisville literally 2 games ago to a 0-0 draw One of the things I wanted to talk about on the show last week, but obviously we didn't have a show last week, was the phantom offsides that Laser scored, which it was weird to me because I didn't get a chance to watch the game. I watched the highlights. Typically when a goal is called off, they don't include it in the highlights. So this was in the highlights. I saw the play and I was like, there's no way he was offsides. And they showed the goal and then just like the score never changed at the top. So I was like, what happened? Steve made a compelling argument that he was offsides, or he felt pretty adamantly that he was offsides, and he came back on. It's just curious that if there's anything that's contentious at all, they don't include it in the highlights. Like the USL likes to avoid any sort of confrontation in terms of the highlights, but regardless. We are currently chasing Louisville for the most clean sheets in the league. They are at the top of the league with 9. We have 8. So a good clean sheet here, especially at Lynn Family, would be a nice little kick in the you-know-whats to them. Interesting stat here, guys. Louisville are currently 16th in the league out of 24 in shots with 196. Where do you think that the Hounds fall in terms of shots overall in the league? Do you think that we are higher than Louisville, who are currently 16th, or do you think we are lower than Louisville?
Gonna say higher.
Josh says higher. Justin, what do you say?
I think I would say higher too, but
Justin says higher. Kev?
I mean, I'll say lower just because everyone else said higher.
That's
So,
a good point.
Like, you don't do it for any other reason other than just to be different from everybody else. Guys, shockingly, the Hounds are dead last in the league. We are in 24th with 165 shots. We've only taken 165 shots, and yet we are in second place in the East, which tells you something about our conversion percentage.
True.
Yeah, I saw that and I went, holy crap. Like, we're almost top of the league in shutouts. We're up there in goals. We have somebody challenging for the Golden Boot.
This is terrible. This is terrible. I was like, yes, because Show and me can't put a shot on net.
That's
ouch.
He's great. He's a good forward.
Just wait. Let him cook. I bet you in a year or two. Yeah.
I agree.
Assuming he's still with us.
When he's not with the Hounds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true. Guys, what do we think happens here? We're traveling to Louisville, Lynn Family Stadium. It's a Wednesday game. Josh, give me a prediction here. What do you think is going to happen?
A prediction already. Okay, so I don't want to say another 0-0 game, but I mean, this is the time for it, right? Like, the Hounds will be trying to just not concede a point to Louisville. I'm just going to say 0-0.
Okay, so you said 0-0. Kev?
It's just annoying that it feels like now is the time that Louisville is kind of getting into their groove. If you look at the beginning of the season, they didn't, I don't know, they weren't anything spectacular. And all of a sudden they have 3 shutouts in a row. They hold us to a 0-0 draw at Highmark. And it's just like, come on. Like, Louisville is I'll say it again, Louisville is the team that I want to beat and finish above. And it just feels like we're not playing them at a great time right now. And so, yeah, I don't know. Look, the Josh Everton fan in me says 1-0 Louisville because I just don't have good feelings about this. Because when do I ever when we're playing Louisville? But I don't know. I guess I'll stay with that.
All right, Kev says 1-0 loss. Justin?
I don't know why. Give me a 3-1 win.
Whoa!
I don't think it's actually going to happen. I'm just doing something different because I don't think anyone else is actually going to predict them to win. But I do think that there's some element of like, okay, the Hounds haven't scored, and they got to score at some point. They're not going to go scoreless for the rest of the season. So like, it's going to be a game where the floodgates sort of open, and like, why not in Louisville?
I've said similar things in the past, and I've immediately followed up with, I don't know who's scoring, but like, I'm going to say, it's this. So
Dequa's back. Dequa's scoring now.
Is he though? So that's an interesting question. Do you think he starts this game after getting, 45 against Sacramento?
Okay, yeah, you make a good point.
I think Lily's going to be hard pressed to keep him off the field.
Oh, come on. No player is going to tell Lily what to do.
I think Dikwa might.
Yeah, I think he might.
Circumstances tell Lily what to do. And Lily might be looking at the circumstances right now and being like, we need Dikwa on the field.
He's like,
Like
"No
I
one's
don't think it's so
scoring."
much that Dikwa's telling him. I think he's just like, we need goals.
And Dikwa scores and fits and starts too. So like, you know, he'll come and drop a hat trick on Louisville and then not be effective at all against Detroit or something.
I originally was going to say a 1-0 win for the Hounds. I'm going to up it. I'm going to say 2-0. I think the more we sort of talk about this, I could see us doing something sneaky and seeing goals from like Griffin and Dikwa. I can see us mixing it up a little bit. I realistically, I see us coming out with a draw, like a 0-0 draw. Just go in, get the point, because we're playing Detroit on the weekend, which will be at home. So you do what you got to do to get the point in Louisville. But I could also see us get up for this game. We've talked about how good we've been playing. So yeah, I say 2-0 win.
You hedged that bet. There you go.
I know. That's what we think. Let us know what you think. Like I said, tomorrow, or depending on when you're listening to this today, the post will be up on YouTube so that you can go add your score prediction. So make sure that you go do that. Take part in our pick'em. Guys, after this road trip on Wednesday, the Hounds are back at home to face Detroit on Saturday. Detroit, I like to think of Detroit as our rival. It's been a season. And so there hasn't been a lot there, but they are having a pretty crummy season, as we alluded to in the standings. They currently have half as many points as we do, half as many goals. They've only scored 12 goals, which is the lowest in the league. And their conversion percentage is half of ours. So again, lots of halves there. I mentioned already, they faced twice as many shots as we have. Looking at all of those stats, my immediate thought was like, is this a trap game? I don't think this is a trap game.
No.
Like, I think that Detroit is just having a crappy enough season.
Hartford's our trap game where they've only won 2 games.
Back at Highmark after playing Louisville, it's going to be a packed house because I'm bringing half the people with me. I think I could see this being a runaway, like 3-0, 4-0 game. I'm going to say 4-0 feels real strong. I'm going to say 3-0.
That was going to be mine as well. I'm going to piggyback on your 3-0. I think we have yet to beat them in league play. I believe we had like a one preseason game where we beat them, but not being able to beat them yet. And that chip on that shoulder right there. And you just feel like this is the moment where we should run away with it. So I hope we do.
Justin, what do you think?
See, that's where I'm going to go the opposite of this one. I think a 1-0 win, and I think it's going to be one of those games where it's like, 85th minute, we finally put one in the back of the net after having the ball in their half all game long, and no one can score, and then all of a sudden, Ordonez comes up for a corner kick and gets the one.
DZ bicycle kick wins it all.
Yeah, exactly.
Kev?
I mean, verbatim, Justin said what I was going to say. So, yeah, 1-0.
So 1-0 win?
Frustrating. Yeah, 1-0.
I just don't see Detroit. I mean, maybe they will. I like to think that, the number one team in the West came here and we frustrated them to the point that they kind of just bunkered. But, yeah.
I will say, look, I don't think, like, Deke was back. All problem solved. Like, right. I don't think it's going to happen that quickly. Like, I think it eventually happens because Deke was that impactful of a player, but I think it's just going to take time.
But Deke and Robbie Mertz back on the field at the same time.
Look, I feel like Robbie is my new Danny Griffin, where I just I just don't think Robbie's had a good season. Now I understand that that's been interrupted with injuries.
Yeah.
And I get that, but for the mold of the player that I think we talk about him being, he needs more numbers than he has. He needs more goals. He needs more assists, and he's just not getting them.
That's what we think. Let us know what you think. Get down to Highmark Stadium this weekend. I think there's a watch party at Mike's on Wednesday. Josh, is the Steel Army doing a watch party?
No, so we weren't going to be doing a watch party, but since the Hounds said they're going to do their Mike's watch party, we jumped on and telling all our members to go out to Mike's on Wednesday. Most of the board's going to be there. Really looking forward to it. It's going to be interesting because it's also the Gold Cup. The U.S. men's national team. I think they play at 7:30 and we play at 8. So it's going to be a situation where they'll have both games on. They did assure us that the Hounds will have sound, so we'll have the game audio.
Nice.
But yeah, American Outlaws, we're also planning on showing up to that for the Gold Cup. So it's going to be like a double watch party extravaganza. Should be a lot of fun. So yeah, if you can get out to Mike's Beer Bar, come on out.
Tell you what, man, the advertising works. My kids are like, "Oh, you guys like Mike's? Everybody's going to Mike's." Like they've never been there. They have no idea where it's at, but they just know, like, "Oh, is watch party at Mike's?" So kudos to you, Mike's and the Hounds, for plugging that away. So yeah, get down to Mike's on Wednesday night to catch the watch party. Saturday night, Highmark Stadium. They're giving away mini Highmark replicas to the first 10,000 people through the door. So no rush. You don't have to be front of line. No big deal. But if you do get one, if you do get one and you're itching for a crisp, brand new Mongols hat, I will bring a few extra with me and I will trade you. So
Mike, in 20 seconds, tell me this. Why? I've seen the pictures. I just don't get it. Why? What?
the pictures of what?
What don't you get? Which part? Of this?
The replica stadium.
It's just a free replica stadium. I mean, it's free.
You're like, what else is there to sell?
Why are we selling you a free thing? We don't have to sell it to you. We're giving it to you. You just have to show up.
Yeah, it's a limited edition thing. Listen, in all honesty, so my kids are with our parents for the week for the most part. And at the beginning of the season, when the promotional schedule came out, they were like, "Oh, mini replicas of the stadium. Like, we got to go to that game." Like, they circled it, and I was like, "Kev, I was the same with you." I was like, "Okay, like it's cool. Like, it's probably something that you won't see ever again." And so literally this weekend we were sitting around and I was like prepping for the show and I was like, "Oh, the free replica that's coming up this weekend." And my wife was like, "Well, do you want to get tickets?" And I was like, "Really?" And we were like, "Yeah, let's." So we got tickets and then literally it turned into a whole thing with her entire family. Like, no joke, 20 people. It's going to be a madhouse, but yeah.
That's funny. No, and Liz shot a truthful arrow through my heart, and it's just like, oh, that's so right. Like, she said it's fun, and that's why
you don't understand.
Yeah,
Liz, the arbiter of truth. So, yeah. So hopefully we see everybody down at the game this weekend. We see you at Mike's on Wednesday, or Josh, you see you at Mike's on Wednesday. Guys, anything else before we wrap this one up?
Still going strong, still a good team. Second in the East is nothing to be ashamed of at all. 3 shutouts in 4 games, good home record, still unbeaten at home. Yeah, no, still a really, really good season so far.
Great season. I'm going to ask one question real quick before we get out of here. Are we at the beginning of the season, did you think this is where we would be 18 games in? Kev?
You know what? Weirdly enough, I actually did. I remember there's a lot of
Josh, did you think this is where we would be 18 games in?
No, I mean, like, just the Open Cup run, like, magic that was having a MLS team at home, having a great season on top of that, like, getting both of those things has been fantastic.
Yeah. Justin?
I would say before this season, I thought that this would be 2 or 3 games into the season. I did no thoughts of that. And so I was believing the hype before the season, and then we got into the season. I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be a rough one," and so I'm glad we've turned it around.
And I famously was the opposite. I had no hype going into the season. I thought this was going to be an awful season, and
that's why Kevin was actually hyped about this.
That's
season.
right.
He was like, "Oh, Mike is not hyped."
Yeah. That's the canary in the coal mine. Yeah.
Everyone thinks that Kevin is like this arbiter of just future tellings, and he's a soccer genius. He just picks the opposite of whatever the rest of us say, and even a broken clock is right twice a day. So
you're just a constantly changing broken clock. Then I guess.
That's what we think. Let us know what you think. Like I mentioned, follow us on YouTube, follow us on, I guess, Twitter, follow us on Threads at MongolsPod on Threads. And once they get chronological order, we'll start live threading there, whatever that's called. yeah, otherwise, hopefully we see you this weekend. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you very, very soon.
Thread me. Cheers.
Later.
Is that the term? Like thread it?